by giving us tax breaks. So if you're invested in stocks over the long term, when you finally sell them or you make a profit on those, you're taxed at a much lower rate. So the only thing with that is that low earners typically are locked out of capital gains benefits because they don't have enough money really to invest, or they're afraid of losing money. A lot of times lower income folks don't have the necessary information on how to invest and how to grow their money. Therefore, they're very risk adverse and they'd rather just keep their money in a bank or keep it in a safe place. They lose the tax benefits and they also lose out on the opportunity to grow their wealth over time, which is, as a financial person myself, a financial specialist with Allstate, I'm very concerned with helping people grow their wealth. When we become more wealthy, we have more options that open to us. Wealth doesn't buy happiness, but it sure makes being miserable a lot easier. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right things with our money. So when I was talking to this Trump supporter, he was saying, how dare you support an empty suit? How dare you support somebody who's going to be raising taxes on all of us? How dare you even think of doing that? It's un-American. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Ordinary taxes. Right now, the ordinary tax rate for the lowest earners is 10%. That's up to $19,500 a year. You're taxed at 10%. And frankly, when you pay your taxes, the effective tax rate is lower than 10%, but that's where you start. If you earn up to $80,000 a year, your tax rate is 12%. It only goes up 2%. If you earn between $80,000 and $171,000, you pay 22% in taxes right now. If you earn between $326,000 and $414,000, now, how many people do you know that earn between $300,000 and $400,000 a year?
I don't.
Probably not many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people. So, and then the top income tax rate for ordinary income tax rates right now is 35%, and that's for incomes between $414,000 and $622,000. Those are the top earners. So that's the current rate. Let's talk about now what President Biden is proposing for tax rates and how it's going to affect the average consumer and the average taxpayer. Every income level up to $326,000 will experience no change in their ordinary tax rates. If you earn under $326,000, actually $326,000 and $600,000, you will not have a change to your tax rates. By definition, especially in the parts of the country that we live, if you're earning $326,000, I think you could consider yourself a top earner or a really solid earner for your family. I mean, if you're making that kind of money and you're still having money problems, then you need to talk to somebody like me. It's for people who make over $326,000. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually wrong. Up to $414,000, your tax rates are not going to change. That's pretty impressive. However, if you earn over $414,000, your tax rate will go to 39.6% from 35%. It's a 4.6% difference on the highest earners. By definition, if you're a high earner, that little bit of tax is not really going to affect you very much. And we all have to realize that those taxes are going to go to paying down the debt and going into infrastructure in this country that we absolutely need. So there is not going to be a huge change in the way your money is taxed from the work that you do, from the paycheck that you receive. So for most of us, we're not earning that kind of money. Therefore, we don't need to worry about those tax rates. Now let's talk about capital gains rates, because this is also very, very interesting. Right now, if you earn under $40,000 and you're investing and making money in the markets, you don't pay any capital gains tax. Zero. It's pretty fantastic. It's a good incentive for lower earners to take a portion of what they earn and start investing it to grow their futures. If you earn under $999,000 per year, do you know anybody who makes that much money?
A year?
A year. 990, just a dollar under $1 million a year. You know anybody who makes that kind of money?
I don't.
Shelly Shell?
I'm sure somebody is, yeah, but
That you know?
I'm sure my former boss is.
Okay. All right. So up to $1 million, the capital gains rate is 20%. It stops at 20%. When you earn over $1 million, under the current tax rates, it stays at 20%. Under the new proposal, that rate will go to the ordinary tax rate of 39%. So those people out there who are earning over $1 million, the money that they have invested that's earning them money, they're going to pay as if it's ordinary income. So instead of paying 20%, they're going to be paying 39.6%. Is that a problem for most people? No, it really isn't. And let's be really clear. If you're making $1 million a year and you're properly invested, and you look at the historical returns of what the market offers in the S&P 500 and the Dow, it's usually between 9 and 10%. If you've got $1 million invested, just by using those numbers, you're making $90,000 to $100,000 a year for doing nothing. You are earning that money by having your money invested. So at a 20% tax rate, you make $100,000. That means you get to keep 80. In this new scenario, if you make $100,000, you're going to be able to keep just over 60,000. So, you know, is that going to keep $1 million earner every year from them having their next yacht? Maybe it might, but I doubt it. You know, that kind of money. Those tax rates, by the way, were the tax rates that were the tax rates under Obama. What the last administration did is we had a good economy, and they lowered the tax rates on both individuals and on corporations, so much so that our economy lost $1 trillion a year during a good economy. Then during the pandemic, it lost multiple trillions of dollars. So when we look at our society and what's going on, these tax rates really aren't going to 1960s level. In 1960, in the early 1960s, ordinary tax rates on the top earners were 90%.
Wow.
90%. Those were the all-time highest tax rates that we had. But when you look back at the 50s and 60s, when those tax rates were higher, what was happening in this country? We were building infrastructure, we're building roads, the highway system, putting up schools, doing the things that we needed to do to be a functional society, and it turned us into a world-class society. What happened during the last administration is they took the money that was being created, and instead of channeling it back to pay back the debt in our country and reinvest in infrastructure, because we all know that we need our electrical grid needs to be updated, our roads need to be updated, our bridges, just our schools, the way we educate people, all that stuff. Money went back into corporations' hands, which by itself is not necessarily a bad thing. However, the way it was pitched to the American people was that we're going to give these tax breaks to the big corporations. We're going to use trickle-down economics. And what's going to happen with these corporations is all that money we're letting them keep, they're going to reinvest in buying equipment, hiring people, improving their business. All this money is going to come back into the economy. Guess what? That didn't happen. What a lot of these corporations did instead was they used that money to pay bonuses to their upper level management, and they also used a ton of it for stock buybacks, which stock buybacks do a couple of things. When you have less stocks in the market, when you look at supply and demand, if there's less stocks in the market, what happens to stock prices? Ladies, you know, what's the answer? The price goes up. When there's scarcity, when the supply level goes down, the price goes up. It's supply and demand economics. However, when you look at it in a different way, when those stock prices are going up because the corporations are buying back those stocks, who typically has stock options in those companies? Upper level management.
Right.
So in doing so, yes, they're inflating the price of the stocks of the company. However, a lot of those upper level people in the company own a lot of those stocks through stock options, and it makes them richer as well. So what this new tax does on capital gains is it still allows people to make money by investing, and a significant amount of money. But what it does is it keeps more, or it goes back to the previous rate of what taxes were. And instead of looking at long-term capital gains as a lower tax on the rich, now it's going to go to the ordinary tax rate of 39.6%. And the only thing that's going to do is improve our infrastructure and the things that are going on in this country. So when people come to you or talk to you about taxes and how horrible they are, it's really important to have all of the information. By and large, most people in this country are not going to be affected by any tax increases whatsoever on a federal level. Now, I can't say what's going to happen on a state level because there's 50 states, and we don't know what's going to happen at a municipal level because that's local. But on a federal level, most people are not going to be affected by these taxes. And the revenue that's coming in, if you look at what's going on right now, what the current administration is wanting to do is they're wanting to invest back into the country, back into infrastructure, roads, bridges, daycare for kids, offering tax credits for that. There's a lot of really good things that are happening that need to happen, but they don't happen for free. If you want to live in a country such as ours that has the rule of law, the best country on earth, we need to invest in ourselves. And that's one of the ways that we're going to do it. So do you ladies have any questions? Was I clear?
Well, yes. And I definitely understood that. I do want to, some people have said hello. J. Monet Holman said, thanks for sharing this information. 100. Hi, James. Hi, Brian. Hi, Monica and Malik. And they did have one question.
Sure.
How does, this is not about the taxes though. Malik asked, how does cryptocurrency work in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question because I'm getting a lot of inquiries about cryptocurrencies. We have to realize that cryptocurrencies, such as they are very, very volatile. There is chatter going on that the federal government is going to do what they can to quash cryptocurrencies right now. The technology doesn't exist yet to have it replace actual currencies. And we have to figure that out at a federal level, how that's going to look. So a couple of years ago, I had somebody come to me and ask me, so what do you think of Bitcoin? Should I invest in Bitcoin? And I said, well, that depends on you. How much can you afford to lose? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, cryptocurrency is very volatile. It could be $10,000 today, but it could be $3,000 tomorrow because that's the way the market's working. So I always ask people, if you're looking to invest in cryptocurrency, that's not the question to ask. The question to really ask is, what if there was a huge loss in cryptocurrency or a huge loss in the money that you invested in those types of assets? How would you react to that? Would you be like, okay, great, I'm going to buy more because the cost is lower now and I have the money to do it? Or would you lose your mind because you lost money? Most people are risk averse. Most people are loss averse. It's called loss aversion bias. And if you ask people, they would much rather have the safety of not losing money rather than losing money. So most people would rather put their money in the bank thinking, oh, if I put my money in the bank, I'm not going to lose any money. Whereas if I invest it, I could lose a lot. With cryptocurrencies, that's absolutely the case. We've seen incredible volatility up and down when it comes to cryptocurrency.
Basically, it's risk aversion.
Risk aversion bias and loss aversion bias. Those are both big ones that investors deal with. So if you're an experienced investor and you know what market fluctuations mean for you as an investor, and you can handle the risk and you can handle the roller coaster, it might be a good place for you to go. But if you are very risk intolerant or loss intolerant, that is not the place for you to be. Because if the market goes down significantly, what do most people do when the market goes down?
They sell, right?
They sell. And in doing so, what do? They lock in their losses. They
They
take
lost.
their losses. So we have to be really careful about these types of investments. I recommend having a small portion of your overall portfolio in cryptos. But if you're going to be using all of your money to bet on cryptos, you're going to be asking for trouble. You want to have a highly diversified portfolio to mitigate those risks. The other thing that comes with cryptocurrency is a lot of people are asking, well, what's it based on? Well, when you look at Bitcoin, it's based on nothing. I mean, it's literally based on the fact that people are accepting it as a method of payment for goods and services, very much like the dollar. The dollar used to be based on a gold standard. I think you probably have heard about that. Every dollar was based in the gold stores that this country had. So there was always a backup value to our currency. That was phased out several decades ago. Now, the dollar is valued entirely on the promise of the US government that that dollar is in fact worth a dollar. It's also based on the fact that the government guarantees that it's worth what it's worth. So we have an acceptance issue that goes on with cryptocurrencies as well. And then there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies that are out there right now. So we can talk about Bitcoin for a second. I believe that there are only 23 million Bitcoins in circulation, and that will never go up. It will always be 23 Bitcoins. So you have a limited supply. And when there's a limited supply, what did we just talk about? Supply and demand, right? When there's a limited supply and demand is going up, what happens to the price? The price goes up. But there's a lot of other competing cryptocurrencies that are out there. I'm going to mention one right now. It's called Dogecoin. Dogecoin, have you heard about it?
Mm-hmm.
Dogecoin, a lot of investors have been piling into Dogecoin, and it was selling for a fraction of a penny. And I believe it went up to like 16 cents per Dogecoin. And, you know, so if you bought Dogecoin at a quarter of a penny and now it's 16 cents, that's exponential growth. However, as a financial specialist myself, when I look at Dogecoin, I view it as a fad. And why is that? Because Dogecoins are unlimited. Unlimited Dogecoins can be made. So the more Dogecoins that are out there, what does that do to the price? It dilutes the price. Recently, we've had a market correction in Dogecoins. Gone down from 16 cents to like 9 cents. So if you bought at 16 and you bought thousands of shares and now it's 9, depending on your risk tolerance, who knows how you would handle that situation. So before you do anything with Dogecoin or any cryptocurrencies, and this is to everybody who's listening right now, get the advice of a financial planner, advisor, specialist, somebody like me in your life that you trust, and make sure that you're doing all of the right things. It's not just about having one asset. It's about having all kinds of things going on in your financial life to make sure that you're protected. Does that answer the question?
I think so. He asked for our phone number. I sent out the phone number. We don't have that much time with this section. I have a question that I don't, it might be too big a question to ask. Okay, so I did a job for someone. It's a new company, right? A new company. So instead of paying me, they gave me shares in the company. So I don't know what that means.
Okay. So paying you in shares is, it can be good if it's a successful company because those shares will grow in value. However, if it's a small company or just a startup and you don't know anything about the management or how it's being run or if it's ever going to be profitable, those shares could be worthless. Mm-hmm. So you have to do the investigation into the company itself, look at its history, have the shares of stock appreciated over time? Have they gone down in value over time? What are they actually selling at? So if you work for a company,
it's like it's a brand new company, and I didn't know I didn't expect any pay. I didn't expect to get paid. I was volunteering, and they gave me.
Well, if you go in expecting nothing and you get nothing, then you're fine, right?
Right.
If you get stocks and the company turns out to be a winner, those stocks could be extremely valuable to you in the future. but you still have to wait for that company to achieve success and grow those stocks over time. So essentially what you're asking is, if I get stock, is it a crapshoot? If it's a young company, an unestablished company, it's absolutely a crapshoot. If Apple was offering you 100 shares of Apple stock, well, you already know what that is. But if it's stock in ABC Widget Company, you don't know how that's going to look in 5 or 10 years. So that's completely up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it, but it's something I might want to talk to you about separately.
Okay.
I don't know, Malik, why the phone number is not. Thank you, Brian. I don't know why the phone number is not. I don't even know. DJ Kidisco, are you listening in?
Is he checking the phone?
Yes.
Okay. Did someone try to call? Did the phone ring?
No.
It says the phone has not been working for a while, Monica said, because she tried to call in too. So that's something. We got a break now anyway, so let's check on that. And thank you so much, Craig. I'm sure we're gonna get into more financial conversations, because Peg is also kind of an expert at this, and we're gonna bring Peg Coates. She is an entrepreneur, a spiritual practitioner, and a life coach, and a whole bunch more. She's going to be joining us after the break in 3.5 minutes. Come back, please.
It's the PPC Radio Show, hosted by Cinda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio. WGFB-FM radio.
So are you ready? Yeah.
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
For the health and safety of our guests and team members, we're here for you. That means frequently deep cleaning our stores and wiping down carts and baskets after each use, reserving dedicated shopping hours for our most vulnerable guests, providing masks and gloves to our team members, and offering contactless shopping options through the Target app, like Drive Up and same-day delivery. We are here for you now more than ever, and your health and safety is our highest priority. Learn more at target.com/a bullseye-view.
New Dunkin' Refreshers. Vibrant fruit flavors like strawberry, dragon fruit, and peach passion fruit. B vitamins and energy from green tea. All under 200 calories. Order ahead via the Dunkin' app for a contactless way to order, pay, and pick up in the drive-thru. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Together in the club, and you discuss the successes and failures that you each have had.
Amazon is hiring near you. Earn a competitive wage and start as soon as 7 days. No resume or experience required. Health and safety are a top priority with all of Amazon's roles and sites. Amazon is taking precautions in their buildings to keep people healthy. Go to Amazon.com/apply. That's Amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
I mean, of course, with the fee, I mean, I guess your fee will come out of what we're given per month.
Hey, everybody.
No, you could do it with an investment club. You do it on your own. I mean,
Single on a Saturday night. Make sure you
we're
follow us on Instagram
at
Single on a Saturday night.
This money and invest it, and of course, you get your
Single on a Saturday night
being the investor.
Follow us on Instagram, and we'll follow back.
The way to go.
Hey everybody,
So
it's Shelly
I
Show
would be more
Williams,
than happy to
Philly's
lead a group
Oprah,
like that if you wanted to
executive
put something
producer
together
of
like
Urban
that. And
Expressions,
what I would
Single on
recommend
a
is that
Saturday night.
everybody
But
does
I
their own
am a
individual
business,
investing,
social
and we
media,
talk about
and
what to do
media
and how to
coach.
do it. We
And
can
if
go
you're
through it like I
looking
used TV America.
to show up on social
my
media with a
clearinghouse.
purpose,
Very
I have a
easy to
course
use.
for you.
It's
Have you been
easy for
struggling
anybody
as
to
an entrepreneur, trying
Then
to
if
figure
anybody
out how to
valued
get people
what
to
I do,
engage, how
the
to get people to
financial products that I
buy,
sell,
how to get people
choose
just
work
to
with
see
me
you
through
on social
Allstate.
media? I have just a course
I
for
have a
you.
contract with Allstate
Please
where I
go
am
to
not taking
ShellyShowWilliams.com
outside fees from
to
anybody.
find
It all
out
has to be
more.
for Allstate. But I can lead a group where we're doing it.
WGFB-FM radio.
So are you ready? Yeah.
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
Yo, what's good? This is Tracy Lee, and you already know I gets down with the Get Down, man. Grown Folks Radio all day.
Hi, everybody. This is Cinda Williams, and I am the co-host of the Melanated Morning Show and the host of the PPC Radio Show. And you are listening to Grown Folks Radio. Radio.
PPC, 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 yeah. PPC, 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 yeah. Join me so we can grow together. Conversation, get that healing. Let them know what they're missing. Share with your best friend. Tell them come hear this, yeah. Don't you dare miss your blessings. Powerful lessons, true confessions, yeah. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you and me. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you and me. PPC,
All right, way to bring us back in.
Yeah.
For those people that have never heard a song, because a lot of people come in as the show is already moving. That's the way they can hear us. So thank you, DJ Kid Disco. And on that note, let's bring in our guest, Peg Coates from Colorado. Amazing lady that I've had the blessed opportunity to meet. And we're going to talk to her about her journey and then kind of get into what she's doing as a retired teacher to earn money herself, you know. What time will you be done? Yeah, you got to take your mute off, okay?
I'm here.
All right. Just a bunch of people clapping for you.
Yay.
So, for those that did not hear the podcast, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from and all that, so they know who you are.
All right. Well, I am a Colorado native. Grew up on a small farm. Went to college, majored in a double major in music at first, both instrumental and vocal. So I love music. Went into teaching. I'm a retired school teacher. I taught for 40 years, predominantly middle school, and loved that. It was a real sacred gift to be able to teach and help kids find their way through making good decisions. A lot of my career has been around listening. So I am a life coach. I'm also a licensed spiritual practitioner. Got halfway through my ministerial program as well. So I walk a pretty serious spiritual path. And I'm an entrepreneur as well. I have a wellness business. So that includes, listening as well, finding out what people need in order to be the best they can be.
Yeah, I think, what's your sign? When were you born?
I'm a Libra. I'm an October 2nd person.
Oh, okay. Because you do so much. It's like I meet certain people, and it's like they have a really good life. They have one job they've always done, and then there's people like you, who's done a million things. You do all these things. You go from creative jobs to more practical jobs to more, but you're being creative throughout the whole time. Do you think that is something that was instilled in you as a child, or it was just who you were?
I think it's a combination, Cinda. I mean, I grew up in a very musical family. If I look back, I think I would have chosen to be more into the arts, painting and that kind of thing. But because I was so tracked with my family, I went into music. And I don't regret it. I love music. I still love it. It just lifts my heart. For sure. Sung in a choir for almost 28 years. But I think it is pretty much in me as well, because I'm a very curious person. I still have a lot to learn and a lot to experience in terms of art. that I want to do. I make jewelry. I do a lot of different kinds of creative things, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that, like, I have a brother. I have a bunch of siblings, but I have one specific brother that always amazes me on all the things he does, because he chose a practical lifestyle. He's a lawyer and works for the Small Business Association, but he flies to Colombia and does movies in Spanish, and he writes books, and he's writing screenplays and so much stuff, you know what I mean? And and Andy's a great dad, and husband. He spends time with his wife. They do things together. Then he coaches his daughters and different things. It always amazes me. I only had one kid, and that was like enough. That kept me busy. But people that do so many things. Do you have any children, Peg?
I don't, but I like to say to people, I have 9,000 kids that I touched when I taught. So, and I also coached. So I did athletic coaching. I was a very active athlete as a young woman, played semi-professional softball, coached varsity high school volleyball. So, but I really did have the luxury of working with the kids during the day and coming home at night to either do my music or to do second or third jobs if I needed to bring in more money. Yeah.
Well, that's a blessing.
So while you were teaching, were you doing all of the stuff too? Were you still doing the music? Was it one of those things that I just love it, so I'm going to do teaching and this, and is that it?
Yep, I did. I used to actually sing in clubs while I was teaching.
Like clubs, like the clubs with the music and the beer and the drink.
Yeah, like clubs. Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting gig to do clubs because you never know if the audience is even going to notice you're up there singing. It depends on the audience. Matter of fact, I learned early on that if I would incorporate a slideshow with some of the regulars at whatever club I was at and had pictures of them behind me while I'm singing, they would pay attention. It was about them. So they were like, oh, wait, look, oh, I'm up there, and then all of a sudden their focus went from talking to somebody, either at the bar or at the table to looking up there to see themselves. So I found creative ways to get their attention as well. Yeah.
That's smart. I know that when I lived in Singapore, the focus was never on arts there so much. It was all about math and science and all that kind of stuff, because it's a very young country. It's like my age, which is young for a country, but they're trying to open up the arts, and they realize that is important too. But I'm telling you, it was so hard to perform there because, for me, it was okay because I had sung in bars and in clubs for years. So people talking while I sang did not hurt my feelings at all.
Right.
But the people that I was working with were not used to it. One of them was from the West End in England, and the other one was like from I don't know, not Australia, Austria or somewhere else. No, New Zealand. Anyway, they were used to audiences paying attention. And they were getting so offended and upset because in Singapore, they just haven't been educated on the etiquette for, a show. So we'd be up there doing, going all out, dancing and singing. And it's like people getting up, walking across the room, just we were not there.
Right. Yeah.
It really hurts your ego, but it's a lot of money. So if you can just get your ego out of it and just go make that money, honey.
Right. Right.
And you can go right across to Malaysia, which is a 10-minute bus ride from Singapore, where they love you. They're into you. They are listening to you, but you're getting paid maybe a fourth of the money, but it feeds you creatively.
Right.
So,
right. Wow.
Yeah. So how did you get into the spiritual side of things? What happened there? How'd that happen?
You know what? I just have had that all my life. I've been very, very interested in all things spiritual. And so, I went through a variety of different faith paths. I grew up as a Presbyterian. My best friend went to the Lutheran church. So in high school, I started doing double duty. You know, my parents didn't want me to go to Lutheran church, so I'd go to the Presbyterian church, and then I'd go over to the Lutheran service after the Presbyterian service because I wanted to be hanging with my best friend. And I really liked the ritualistic piece of the Lutheran church. I went into college and I ended up going with the guy I was dating to the Catholic church, which was a higher level, certainly, of ritual, which I liked. But there was some of the ideology that didn't fit for me. I didn't think that I had to go through the Pope to get to God. So that didn't quite fit. And so, you know, I went and taught school in Texas. Somebody asked me, what's your religion? And I said, Presbyterian Catholic. And they were like, you know, they were like, in this little Texas town that I was teaching in, it was as good as saying I'm atheist. You know, it's like, they just were like, uh-oh. When I was teaching school, I was actually the choir director at a Methodist church. So I spent time in the Methodist church too. And I just went from different faith paths. I actually ended up studying with 2 Native American women, medicine women, for 14 years as well. And then landed where I'm at now, which is something called the Centers for Spiritual Living. And it kind of works for me because the belief is that all paths lead to God. Doesn't matter what denomination, it's about getting to God, right? And if you really study faith paths, the common thread in there is love one another. It's what Jesus told us, right? Love. It's love. And so that's to me what I want to support. I want to support people coming from that place of heart and actually living love. You know, it's common throughout all faith paths.
Well, one of my favorite things you said, and like I went back and forth about how to title this your show or your podcast, because you said so many awesome things. And one of the things you said was you have ears on your heart. And so that was one of my favorite things you said. You have ears on your heart because you listen. And so I was like, that's the theme, listen. And maybe I won't confuse people with listen. But tell us about that whole concept about the ears on your heart thing. I love that.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, it's very interesting. Listening, I believe that listening is actually how we show love. It's how we are. It's how we really, truly communicate with people. It's not as much about talking as it is about listening. And listening from the heart means we're really focusing on the individual and the other heart that's speaking, right? So we're listening for heart connection and we're listening for meaning. I mean, how many people really want to be heard? You know, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. When I was teaching school, the last 12 years that I taught was classroom health, and I loved it. And I actually formally taught listening, because to me, it's the best and most important skill a person can have. It's like we do writing, but, you know, texting is not writing. The written word is important. We need to know how to write, but we have to learn how to communicate, and that means listen. So many people don't listen. They just talk and they don't hear. They don't listen. So if I'm doing life coaching or if I'm doing spiritual practitioner work, I've got to listen to the person, which means I have to ask powerful questions and listen for the answer and listen from a place of compassion and love. Because if I'm not listening from there and I'm just busy thinking about what I'm going to say next, I've missed that person completely, right? You've got to hear from that level of compassion and attention and then follow. You know, I used to teach the kids, put a spotlight on the person you're talking to and don't flip it back on yourself. Stay with that person, move with them, what they say, follow that, and continue to ask powerful questions, because you're going to get to what they really need and what they really want to say and share. Cinda, how many relationships crash because there's no communication?
Almost everyone.
Yeah, they do. They blow up, right, Shel? They blow up. They absolutely blow up because there's miscommunication, there's misunderstanding. And when you're asking questions and you're listening from the heart and you're asking clarifying questions. So if somebody says something to you and you don't understand it. You have to say, wait, did I hear you say da-da? Repeat it back to them, or ask, tell me more about that. That's a strong thing to say, tell me more about that. So that is a variation from asking questions. And you want to ask open-ended questions, questions that require a long answer. When I was teaching those kids, I taught them the difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions can be answered with yes or no. So I taught them, if they're practicing, if they say no, don't talk to them anymore. Just look at them and go, and ask again the same question, and or the change your question. That didn't come across correctly. If I'm asking a closed-ended question, I told the kids to respond this way and not say a word, because I wanted the kids to understand you have to have questions that require a long response that has a depth to it. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I know one of my things I was trained, and it was so hard for me to do when I was in training for hypnotherapy, was they suggested that when we're with a client and they're talking, to not nod your head, to not respond in any way, because when you do, then you make it about you instead of about them. And so that's very difficult for me to do, because I'm always like, yeah, girl, that's just me. But I had to learn, and I found that was true, especially when dealing with really serious situations or whatever. Not like making it like, yeah, I know what you mean, but just open, like, just give it to me. Feed it to me what you need to help you. And because I know so often, like when you have a relationship, you talk over each other. No one stops and listens. It's so, because the ego is in such control of those relationships often, that it's very difficult to say, okay, go on, tell me what you feel. It's hard. What do you think, Craig? I see you sitting there. Do you have any thoughts about this? I haven't heard you this quiet ever.
He was listening.
Yes, you were listening. I love it. But you're on mute. You're on mute, Craig.
Yes, I was practicing my listening skills.
Good on you.
I had a real thought. So for many, many years, I was a creative director of an improv comedy company. And the number one rule of improv comedy is that you never, ever, ever answer with yes or no. It's always yes and. That way it compels additional conversation. So if people out there are having a difficult time understanding the concept of stillness and silence in dealing with folks, maybe a fun way to kind of like exercise your communication muscle is to try doing improv. I mean, it's a really interesting way to go about learning how to communicate with another human being. And the other nice thing about it is that when you do improv, you're on stage and you're not naked, but you kind of are, because you're literally at the mercy of your scene partner. If they don't give you anything to work with, you got nothing. But if you're always leaving things open-ended and encouraging conversation and communication, that's a lovely, lovely exercise to start really listening to what the other person is saying. Therefore, you can effectively have a banter, and in comedy, hopefully a funny banter. But it works.
Yeah.
I love improv. So let's do it. I want to practice that. But Haig, I was wondering.
Everything we're doing is improv. We don't know what we're
It definitely is. But I want to do like the whole on stage. Let's do some improv. But Peg, when you were talking about the listening part, I think that works well you can teach that in media, in interviews. I feel like so many people who do interviews forget the fact that they should be listening to their guests and not making it all about them. I was talking to Disco about that this week. You gotta listen to people and stop interrupting them. So do you teach it from that aspect, or have you, or can you?
Sure, absolutely. It definitely. If people interrupt, they're not listening at all. They're busy thinking about their own. What's next? I want to have my input. What I'm thinking is a whole lot more important than whatever it is your mouth is trying to say, because you're just stuck in your feedback loop, not listening at all. Right? Definitely.
I feel like it's like jump rope. It's like jump rope. You ever do double jump? And I feel like some people when they're having a conversation or when they're doing interviews, they're like jump rope. They're like, oh, I'm waiting to get in that jump rope and I'm jumping in, as opposed to say, let me just sit here and turn this rope because I'm just trying to jump in. And I find that people say that in relationships, they say, well, you don't talk a lot because I'm listening. Because I don't need to respond all the time. And if I find that there's a talker, like I'm always in relationship with people that they talk all the time, and I'm sitting there like, you'll never know who I am because all you're doing is talking about yourself.
Some Leos.
Yeah.
That's true. But actually, it was somebody who was whatever Peg. What you say, a Libra? Somebody in October.
Libra.
And his whole thing was you don't talk, and I'm sitting there like, because I can't. It's like you're not allowing me entrance, and so you just went there. You did a whole soliloquy all about yourself, and I'm sitting there like, no wonder you don't think I can talk to you because I can't. I need to talk to somebody who's listening. I can't.
You would never know it, but I am a good listener. You would never know it from all the talking I do, but I really am, and I like a conversation too. You know what I'm saying? But like for us, the other night we did this the Melanated After Dark show, and where we talk about more adult conversations, and we had two ladies on the show that were they had a lot of wisdom about the conversation that we were having. It wasn't nothing for me to say. I mean, I was a little uncomfortable too. So Shelly and I were kind of like sitting back and letting them carry the conversation. If things start going too far, you might have to leave some folks back and then keep them on, wherever. But I learned so much. That's why I love when I do my little podcast, because I'm learning about all these other people and their lives. And I learned so much from listening.
I love to listen. I really do. I think like I sit back and sometimes I know we're doing a show, but sometimes you might think I'm not paying. I'm like, well, you're supposed to say something. No, I want to listen because actually I'm sitting like, oh, Peg, can we do a whole teaching thing? Because can you do a media class? I'm sitting there like, all right, your skills are valuable to teach these people in life because it's so many. It can help them in their relationships. It can help them in media. It can help them with so many things. It's an ongoing thing. I love it. So is that what you do in life coaching?
Well, that's what I do in life coaching. That's what I do, in my business too. That's what I do in my spiritual practice with people too, because it's spiritual. It's a spiritual counseling practice. So my whole kind of being requires listening, because what I'm really up to in the world is to try to help people get over, under, around, or through anything at all that keeps them from being who they are meant to be, who God built them to be. Everybody has a reason to be here. And many of them need to have somebody listen to them to find out what kind of obstacles or challenges are they putting in front of themselves, or what kind of thinking is messing up their mission, basically, right? So
I'd like to pipe in, if I may.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute because it's time for a break.
Okay. So I deal with people a lot. So I'm a film director, I'm a financial specialist. I do all this kind of stuff. But we also have a wide circle of people that we come in contact with. And oftentimes letting people speak and just listening, it's not also about finding out ways that you can help people. Sometimes when you listen to people, you realize that based on the way they're talking or communicating, the best place for them to be is far away from you. And I have learned that on many occasions, and I've seen that. So it's also, I learned in the movie making business, in the theater business, sometimes it's more important to know who you don't want to work with or be around than who you do. And there are occasions that come up where you let people talk and they end up exposing themselves, their true natures, and then you can act accordingly, which is also very important when it comes to self-preservation and things like that.
Oh yeah, you can let people tell you who to. If you talk too much, you can't learn who they are, and you might want to protect yourself. And I totally agree. All right, it's 3:01. We're gonna have a 3.5 minute break, and then we're gonna come back with Jenny Graham, our therapist, our resident therapist, who will give us her thoughts and ideas and her gems, as I call it, for our self-help treasure box.
Mm-hmm.
It's the PPC Radio Show, hosted by Cinda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio. WGFB-FM Radio.
So are you ready?
Yeah. How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
For the health and safety of our guests and team members, we're here for you. That means frequently deep cleaning our stores and wiping down carts and baskets after each use, reserving dedicated shopping hours for our most vulnerable guests, providing masks and gloves to our team members, and offering contactless shopping options through the Target app, like Drive Up and same-day delivery. We are here for you now more than ever, and your health and safety is our highest priority. Learn more at target.com/a-bullseye-view.
New Dunkin' Refreshers. Vibrant fruit flavors like strawberry, dragon fruit, and peach passion fruit. B vitamins and energy from green tea. All under 200 calories. Order ahead via the Dunkin' app for a contactless way to order, pay, and pick up in the drive-thru. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Combination of coaching, but I want partners, not projects.
Amazon is hiring near you. Earn a competitive wage and start as soon as 7 days. No resume or experience required. Health and safety are a top priority with all of Amazon's roles and sites. Amazon is taking precautions in their buildings to keep people healthy. Go to Amazon.com/apply. That's Amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
The different hats that I have on. If I'm doing practitioner, that's a different matter. If I'm doing business builder,
hey everybody,
then I'm gonna
it is
do
Shelly
some
Show Williams,
delineation.
host
If I'm doing
of
life coaching,
Single
I
on a
have to figure
Saturday
out
Night.
whether
Make
or not
sure
I
you
wanna have
follow
them
us
as a
on
client.
Instagram
So
at Single
it's
on a
different.
Saturday Night
The
TV.
actual education
That's
part
at
of it.
Single on a
I'm
Saturday
not doing
Night
so much as,
TV.
you know,
Follow us on
formally
Instagram
educating
and we'll
people.
follow back. Hey
Letting
everybody,
people
it's Shelly
communicate
Show
oftentimes
Williams,
reveals
Philly's
their
Oprah,
toxicity
executive producer of
And
Urban
as we all
Expressions,
get
Single on a
older,
Saturday Night. But I am a business, social media, and media coach. And if you're looking to show up on social media with a purpose, I have a course for you. Have you been struggling as an entrepreneur trying to figure out how to get people to engage, how to get people to buy, how to get people just to see you on social media? I have just a course for you. Please go to ShellyShowWilliams.com to find out more.
All right, because time is valuable, right? Our time is very valuable, and we want to work with the people that are,
WGFB-FM Radio.
So are you ready?
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
Yo, what's good? This is Tracy Lee, and you already know I gets down with the get down, man. Grown Folks Radio all day.
Hi, everybody. This is Cinda Williams, and I am the co-host of the Melanated Morning Show and the host of the PPC Radio Show. And you are listening to Grown Folks Radio.
It's the PPC Radio Show, hosted by Cinda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio.
All right, welcome back. If you weren't with us before, this is our second hour PPC Radio Show. We talked about a whole lot of stuff, but what we've been most recently talking about is learning how to listen. You know, either for just so you can get to know people, you can learn from them, or you can learn if you don't want to deal with them. So, of course, now is the time for our Jenny Graham to give her 2 cents or her treasures or her gems. I think it's worth way more than 2 cents to tell us your thoughts based on what we've been talking about.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
On the panel, I guess we're on the panel, right? And in Facebook and everywhere. It's funny, Cinda, my live will do live. Oh, thank you, DJ Kid Disco. It's funny, actually, my live that I do in my Facebook group is called My 2 Cents. So it was funny you just said that. Yeah, so I was taking a couple of notes. I was listening, but I was also in another previous conversation where I was doing a lot of deep listening there too. So I was kind of sitting with all of that. So I think it's apropos that listening is the topic for today. First, Peg, I love what you said about letting your heart have ears. I love that so much. I feel like that's so important, especially in the times that we're living in right now, that there's such a battle between, and I won't even say love and hate. I'll say like love and fear. There's such like a discrepancy between the two. And I feel like, not to be all like cliche and woo woo, but I do feel like we do need to be leaning into a lot more love and just like acceptance and appreciation. And that really does require listening and like bearing witness to other people's experiences. I feel like there's a need for that these days because people need to feel heard and understood. And, for me, I think about listening. I like to say I'm a space maker. So I create spaces to like hear other people's experiences and bear witness. And interesting, Cinda, what you were saying about the hypnotherapy and kind of like, I feel like the idea of like the blank slate. I actually am so against that personally. And I don't know if it's just because I'm an art therapist. And so like I really, embody all that like creative energy and stuff. But, one of the things that I find, in my work as a therapist is that a lot of people, sometimes people need to see how a person's responding to what they're doing or what they're doing. So like I've had experiences with people who shared like really like horrendous experiences they've been through. And because no one has ever shown like, wow, like, or just even the motion of doing that, like clutching your heart or just being like, like the face expressions, I find, they finally worked to my advantage. They didn't always work to my advantage when I was growing up. My face always got me in trouble. But now I can use it as like a nonverbal communication to like let people know that like I'm receiving and I'm having an emotional response to what you're saying without me actually saying anything. And so I do find that that's helpful because sometimes people don't realize like, oh, what I've been through, like, oh yeah, like that makes you feel sad. And it's like, oh, I didn't even realize like I should feel sad about that experience, or there's some sadness that I've not allowed myself to connect to because it hasn't felt safe or I haven't felt seen or that experience hasn't been validated as being like, wow, like that was a really rough, challenging situation. So I do find that like not being a blank slate for me is really helpful. Because there's so many times that people are not listening. That's like what we're talking about. It's like people don't listen. So people are never usually responding or giving physical cues to what the other person's saying because they're like, what everyone's saying, you're too busy thinking about what you're going to say versus like actually connecting with and receiving what the other person's sharing. And I find too, and I feel like this is even something I'm learning and growing in, even in like relationships, is the whole idea, and like Peg, you mentioned like spiritual practices. You made me, I started thinking about, was it the St. Francis prayer and the part about like wanting to understand and to be understood. And it just makes me think about, there's a lot of times where we can get in these back and forth with people because it's like, I want you to hear me. I want you to see me. I want you to understand what's going on with me. And the other person feels the exact same way. Like, I want you to hear me. I want you to see me. And you kind of are going back and forth and like no one's actually being heard and you keep spiraling and having the same conversations. And I find sometimes if I can breathe and pause long enough to be like, you know what, I don't need to be understood in this moment with this person right now. Let me just breathe and listen to what they're saying. And then I'm able to receive what it is that they're saying. And I can, like what Peg said, like kind of reflect back or like ask clarifying questions. And then usually that pattern that was happening of like we're fighting to be seen, it can end because it's like I took the time and I actually hear where you're coming from. I clarified, understand. And now that person's not fighting to be heard or seen or validated around that thing anymore because I've actually given the space for that. And then there's space for me to be like, oh, and this is like what I was thinking about or what I wanted to share with you. So I feel like it's a lot of give and take, especially when it comes to relationships. But that we do have to sometimes pause and prioritize, like, let me be there and just listen to the other person. Let me allow this other person's needs to be important in this moment. Because I think that's when there's so many conflicts that come up, is like when we want our needs to be met at the same time in the same moment. And one of us in those moments has to be like, you know what? You got this for this moment. I'm going to just be here for you in this moment. And if you're in positive relationships with people, there should be a reciprocity of that. So you're not always doing that, But I think that also comes back to like what was shared. I think Craig mentioned it too, like listening to people and kind of getting a sense of their character. I love what you said, Peg, about the partner versus a project. So good. Because that's true. Because you will get to listen to some people and like who you thought you wanted to collaborate with. And then you're listening and you're like, I mean, honestly, that's how I got on this show. Right, Cinda? It's like other folks. But yeah, I've had times where I'm like listening to people and like they'll say one thing and they'll be excited about like a project to work together. And they're talking about all this positivity and like helping out the community. And then we get on the phone and they complain for like a half an hour. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not my people. So yes, listening is very helpful to get a sense of like, are these the right people that you want to connect with? And I feel like also in relationships, sometimes we don't listen enough. And then we end up being in relationships and connections with people we don't want to be with. But that all requires listening and asking questions and then being quiet to listen to the answers to the questions. Because I think that's another thing too that I see is like sometimes we're afraid of what the answer might be. So sometimes we'll cut people off or we'll try to like plug in information that we want to hear them say, or we'll answer for them. And then in your mind, you've just recreated who this person is versus actually seeing this person for who they are. And then like months down the line, you're like, I'm in a horrible relationship, but sometimes we have to pause ourselves and like not create the narrative and allow the narrative to just be reviewed. Oh, I'm sorry. That was random. Sorry. A plastic bag just like flew up in the air.
So what do you do? I'm going to ask you a question based on all of this. What do you do if you're in a situation where you're with a person who you're talking, but it is very obvious that they are not listening? They're not interrupting you. They're not saying anything, but they're not looking at you. Like you said, they're not, it's just like they're reading on their phone while you're maybe talking about something that's important for the relationship, but how do you handle that?
Well, I would say in a moment like that, like you need to ask for what you need. And say like, I'm sharing something that's really important to me. It'd be really helpful if like you were not on your phone is there a better time for me to get like your undivided attention? I think you have to ask for what you need, and then you have to also just pay attention to what you get. And then that'll give you more information around whether or not this is the person that you even should be sharing something really personal with, or it may give you more information about how this relationship can or cannot progress. I think the other thing though, too, like I think the phone added a layer to it for me, but I also find that sometimes we have assumptions about what body language should always look like in terms of like, this means a person is listening to me. And so I even think about this from like different cultural perspectives, that what we decide is like active listening from a body perspective may not always be the same for everybody. One of the examples I've used in like group settings is that, we typically say that like if a person's like sitting like this and they're having a conversation, we automatically say, oh, that person's closed off. They're not trying to be engaged. They're not leaning into the conversation. They're like closed off and disconnected. Depending on the context of the conversation and not knowing a person's story, the person may be sitting like this, and this may be protective and comforting for them so that they are able to be present for the conversation. So I always think about different dynamics, or like the people who like don't seem like they're ever paying attention, but then like they'll repeat back stuff and you're like, I didn't even know you were paying attention to me, because they were looking at somewhere else. And I know for myself, I'm like a creative person, so I get all types of like internally stimulated about things, and I'm all excited, and so I'll be looking all over the place. But I'm like in the conversation, but I'm also like pulling in stuff from all these other spaces that nobody can see. So I think that will just depend from person to person, and you'll get more information about that based on, do they bring things up later? Do they ask you questions about something, or do their behaviors just show you they were listening to you? So I think it's different from person to person in terms of what body language may or may not be communicating.
One of the things that I was going to say, what I've found is when talking to men, it's different than when talking to women too. And I've said this recently a lot, so it must be something I really need to hear, is one person can't necessarily be everything to you, for you. It's like I have my sisters that if I need to vent, I need to talk, I can call my sisters up, and just spew, and there's no feelings or whatever. And sometimes my man don't want to hear all that. He just wants, hey baby, how are you? Smooches, smooches. He don't want to hear about the drama. He don't want to hear about any of that. And so, I had to learn through many, many years in relationships that just because someone's your partner doesn't mean that they want to hear everything you got to say.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the opposite end of that. I'm not the one who has a whole lot of jabber. So I'm always listening to people. It's always opposite. I feel like I'm more in the man situation. I'll be like, do I have to hear this? All that. So I don't want to hear it. I'm the one who doesn't want to hear it. But I also want to have a great conversation. So if I can find that, where you at? But if I can find a great conversation, I don't mind listening to a whole lot of adjectives that go with one story. But I would rather it be a great conversation. But I'm the one who doesn't want to listen. I find men who want to talk. I don't know what it is. You want to talk, and your man doesn't want to talk. I find men who want to talk, and I'm like,
yeah, my guy's a talker.
I'm
a talker too.
You've got to talk. Oh, yeah, you've got two talkers.
We're navigating it though. We're navigating because we're both listening and we're open to learn and like adapt and work with each other. But yeah, I hear you, Cinda. I think sometimes too I've noticed that like, and like this isn't like every man is like this, but I have noticed sometimes that some men will like listen and like I want him to respond to everything I say. And it's like, I'm realizing like, oh, just because he's not responding to every single thing I say, he is listening. And like, I see that evidence in his behavior or other comments, like in different timeframes or in other conversations. So I notice that's different. And I think also with the like, definitely true that like one person doesn't have to meet every single emotional need that you have. That's also like an unhealthy dependence to like expect one person to do everything for you. And I feel like the other thing too, I learned, or I guess he's learned about me, is that sometimes I need to like vent and get something off my chest, but I'm not going to harp on it. And so I think he needs to experience that with me, that like, I'm not like focused on this negative thing. I'm just like, I just got to get this off my chest and like vent about this thing. Like we don't have to have a conversation about it, but like once I get it off, I'm done. And so he's had to experience that with me to see that like, I actually mean that like, I'll actually be done. And like, I'm not going to be stuck in this negative space. It was just like, blah. Okay. Anyway, so.
The good thing is, though, he knows that. You've shared that with him, so he's aware of that process.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's missing sometimes in relationship is to remember that we adore the person and have that be part of our listening. We adore this person. What is the process that they need? So let me adore them and let them have their process and then move from there, right? It's a piece of loving somebody that I think gets lost sometimes, right? That, wait a second, I adore this person, so I'm going to let them have the process that they need, Mm-hmm. And I love, by the way, I want to go back, what you said about creating spaces. I think it's brilliant. And I think it's what we need so desperately right now is to create a space between the warring factions, right? Where that we can actually have a space to hear and see the person that we're having this split with, which, this big tearing that's going on in our country. I think that what you said was so critical to create that space.
Yeah.
And let somebody have the stage and really pay attention, to what's being said.
Yeah. Like, even though we have different needs, we've had different cultural experiences and our social identities impact the experiences that we've had. Or have, like, that is true. And at the base of that, simultaneously, as human beings, we have a lot of the same emotional needs. We have a lot of the same like connection needs. We have a lot of the same emotional responses. And so I think I think as a society, we really struggle with that, like both can exist, that there is this like collective thread of humanity and we have different experiences. Like it doesn't have to be like one or the other. Like we don't all have to be exactly the same. Nor do we have to like be like, we're completely different all the time about everything.
Exactly. It's very interesting. I got involved with an Asian chamber here in Denver because I wanted to understand and respect Asian culture because I got that it's different, right? So I had one woman say to me, "Do you want some hints?" And I said, "Yes, please." And she goes, "We don't like direct eye contact." And I'm like, "What?" I was just like, "Oh my God, how am I going to do this?" Because I feel like I'm ignoring a person if I don't give a, and then she goes, "And Peg, we're not really into hugging." And I thought, okay, well, I'm screwed. I don't know how to do this. It's just going to be really hard for me to try to be respectful from that perspective, right?
And that's when you got to be a chameleon. That's when that's when you have to be I've because I've been so many places, I've been blessed that way, and so many different kind of cultures. You learn, okay, this is the time to listen and peep it out. How are they responding to each other? Because when I lived in Singapore, I would have, Asian people in my mouth. I mean, they get in there's no personal space. They might knock into you as they're walking by. And I thought that, at first I was like, that's so rude. But then I noticed, oh my gosh, that's just how they are. That's their culture. They're very, very, they're those boundaries don't exist. They'll tell you what they think. But they don't want you to look directly at them. They'll bump into you, but so it's about getting comfortable in every situation. I do want to get into one thing. Craig, do you have a comment because I want to talk a little bit about ASEA? Yeah, because that is part of the reason why I wanted Peg on here to talk about this wonderful wellness product that she represents. But Craig, did you want to say something before that happens?
Yeah. This whole conversation about communication is really, really interesting because, it all really essentially boils down to we all want to find our own tribe. And we all want to find the people that jive with the way we communicate, the way we think, the way we look at the world, the way we do all that stuff, and you're not always going to find people who totally agree with that, but you want to find people who accent your life in positive ways, and communication is the only way to do that, and letting people say their piece and hear their piece. Ultimately, listening is best for you rather than talking in many cases, because you are able to figure out who it is that you want to be around. So all of this is wonderful. I love what everybody's saying. My wife, if she didn't talk, she would explode. So I learned early on in our relationship that her love language, that's the other thing we have to know. We have to know people's love languages, whether it's in a platonic relationship or a romantic relationship. In many, 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 many cases, when men are dealing with women, and this is for the men that are out there, they need to talk. It's just women are wired for communication in a different way that men are. And the sooner that men evolve to understand that, instead of trying to control a woman's conversation style, is to embrace it. And like Peg was saying, when you adore somebody, whether it's romantically or platonically, if you adore somebody, you really want to hear what's going on in their heads. And everybody benefits. So I just wanted to throw that in there. We all just are looking through communication to find our tribe, the people that we want to be around, the people that we want to include in our lives, in our successes, our sadness, whatever it is.
Plus another thing that one of the things that I learned through, my training and NLP also is that whole way you communicate. There are people that communicate directly. There are people that communicate with inference. There are all different kind of ways people communicate. And, and men tend to be more, direct. They say what they think, and women are like, a little bit more inference. So I think that's a whole other conversation. But I want you to tell the group, Peg, about ASEA, because I've been, she came to me about, how long has it been? Maybe a month and a half ago now.
Yeah, I think
I've been using this product that she sells. It's a wellness product for inner and topical. Basically, you explain it. I'm not going to try to. Let the expert explain it. Mhm.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so it is actually, you can drink it or you can apply it as a topical gel. It includes, it's made up of something called redox signaling molecules. And you don't need to know what that is exactly. The main word in there that's important is signaling and redox. Redox is just basically, it allows an exchange of energy. But I want you to think for a second about the fact that the body that we are in, it is the most complicated communication network in the world. 50 to 75 trillion with the T cells. Can you imagine connecting 50 to 75 trillion cells, the communication network there? It's incredible, right? Well, these little signaling molecules are in charge of that. That's what they do. And we make them in our body, right? We make them. They're native to the body. And ASEA is actually a bioduplicated molecule that when you drink it, it increases the communication between cells. It's a little bit like a cell phone for the cells. Now, this may be going over people, but I just want you to understand, if your little cell phones are going down in terms of the bandwidth, they're not going to be able to communicate with the immune system. And so if you have a cell that's in trouble, the help is not going to come because it may be trying to communicate and say, come, there's a problem next door that we need to fix. And if they're sitting there talking and the cells are zero, you know what happens with zero, bars? The cell's not going to be able to communicate. Now, here's the thing to know. We make these in our body, but when we go into puberty, we start making less of them. 10% less every 10 years. So I'm 70. That would mean that my body is 30% efficient in its communication. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want a refrigerator or a car that's 30% efficient. Mm-hmm. I sure do want my body to be more. So when you drink this product, it increases the bars, it enhances the communication, and the topical really helps with skin health. So, the question that I always ask people is, what do you need the most? Are you interested in anti-aging? Are you interested in prevention and wellness? Because this increases your total cellular health. Doesn't matter if it's a brain problem or a heart problem or whatever. When you drink this stuff, the communication is intuitive. It's going to happen. If I drink this and I go, I want you to, if I drink this stuff and I want you to go in and work on my heart, when I drink it, the communication in my body may say, that's nice, sister, but your heart is not hurting. You've got severe trouble in your brain, or you've got something growing you're not even aware of in your intestines. They're going to go work where they have to. If you're using the topical, you can direct it where you want it to work. So if I have shoulders that are troubled, and I have had 5 rotator cuff surgeries, then if I want to apply that right to the shoulder, it'll work on the shoulder. If I drink this, it's going to go where it needs to go in my body. So it's working on 2 levels. Is that making sense?
It does.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to look into it. I can, give a little bit of a testify. I'm still, that they suggest to really give it 3 months to see, especially the drink, to see the differences. And I'm looking forward to going to the doctor and having some more tests done, because my issues are like blood pressure and, black folk disease stuff. And so I want to see, has it made a difference in my blood pressure and stuff like that? But I will say that I have way more energy. I'm sleeping like a baby. There are definite obvious changes, that things I've had issues with all along. When it comes to the topical, I've been using it on my face, and I looked at the before and afters. It's been a month. My lines have definitely diminished. So, you know, I'm using it every day. No, but it really, it has made a difference. It's not, William Lee used it for a bit, but he is such a clean vessel. I mean, literally, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't eat meat. He doesn't, you know, so he's already in really healthy. The doctors say he's like super healthy. Now, he went through a health issue before. It was just because he was giving himself too many supplements and working out too much, you know. So he got through that. But he's like a horse. He's like a, you know, very, very healthy. So we're like, well, give it to me, the one that's had some issues. So,
Yeah.
but I'm also quickly, we only have about 9 minutes more before we start wrapping up and telling people how to contact each other. But the financial side of it, because the financial health is important. Tell us a little bit about that side.
I do want to say something about that because I really enjoyed what was shared earlier about the taxes. You know, there are different ways of making income. So my question for you guys to consider is, how do you make income? Do you get paid what's called linearly? In other words, you're going to trade time for money. You're going to work a certain length of time and you're going to get paid for that. The problem with that is, how many of you know somebody's working 2 or 3 jobs and they're still not making it? You run out of time. You can't work 24 hours a day. You can't do it. So linear income is based on time, trading time for money, and it's limited. Reproductive residual income, on the other hand, you sell one time and that comes over time, right? And you know, Cindy, you know that because you probably get paid for any kind of recordings and things that you've done. People that write books, they get paid, you know, copyright on that. And so you can, you know, you work hard and you have one sale and then you just get paid over periods of time. It's residual, it's reproductive. And if you're working in a team, then you're getting extra. So if I have a team of 10 people that are working 1 hour every day, then I'm getting a share of what they're making. Then I'm going to make, you know, I'm not going to work. I don't have to work 24 hours a day if my group is working, right? So residual reproductive income is interesting. The question earlier in the very first segment was, do you know anybody who's making $1 million a year? I do. I work with it. My coach that I'm working with right now, he makes $100,000 a month. Okay. With this type of program, with this company and this product, with people all over the world. The other thing to consider is whether or not you do something called, what we call in our company, next level marketing. A lot of people call it network marketing. There's a lot of, you know, bad juju out there. People have had some bad experiences with that. But the next level marketing that we do in our company has to do with not trying to convince or console or corner people, but to just inform them, you know, teach them, let them experience what they're going to experience. And, you know, that has to do with, you can also look at franchising, right? Creating your own business with franchising. But what you're doing is you're becoming your own boss. You've got adult daycare where you're having to take care of people, you know, within your franchise. So you're payrolling, you're doing all of that kind of stuff. In my kind of business, the company takes care of all of that. The company takes care of shipping, production. They take care of looking at taxes. They do all of that. So when I'm talking to somebody, if they have a pain in their pocketbook, then I'm going to show them something that might help relieve that. You know, not everybody certainly makes $100,000 a month, but you can make, you know, what would $500 a month mean to people, or even $200, you know, especially if you're not having to work a third or fourth job. The other thing that I heard, and I think I heard this on one of your other shows, Monica, when you were working with Monica, about the fact that she had to choose. Was she wanting to be home with her kids, you know, or was she going to work and never see her children? So that's the other aspect that can come with this particular financial opportunity. Time to earn the money at home, working predominantly on Zoom, and allowing the company to do the hard lifting.
So, Craig.
Yes, darling.
So okay, that kind of financial gain. So is that easy to do? Can you have that kind of lifestyle and invest and do all the things that you're usually talking about?
Sure. I mean, why not? But the thing with residual, I mean, everybody should be looking for residual income, and because it's passive income. It's the same kind of income that you would get by investing and reaping capital gains growth with your investments. It's really the same thing. So when you're doing that type of work, you're literally doing the work now to get ongoing income later. And the question really becomes, is this something that you literally see yourself being able to do with a passion in order to be successful with it? Cinda, I know you write books and you do those types of things for residual income. You're an actor, so you get residual income from some of your acting projects, which is great. But there's a lot of other things out there that in the old days you used to think, that produces residual income. But now in our new digital environment, the rules have changed quite a bit. Yeah. So, and I can speak to that personally because I am a filmmaker. And in addition to being a financial specialist with Allstate, I have been very, very involved in the entertainment community for a really long time. And Larissa and I recently made a movie that's been doing very, very well on Prime and on all the digital channels that are out there. But the residual income that once was there no longer exists. And it's tragic. I read today that last year Jeff Bezos made $75 billion. Mm-hmm. Try to wrap your head around that. You know how hard it would be to spend $75 billion in a lifetime, much less in a single year? Well, to give a counterpoint to that, I have a very highly rated movie that's streaming on Amazon Prime right now. It's called The Misadventures of Mistress Maneater. Cinda's in it. And take a guess how much I get paid every time somebody watches my movie, a very highly performing movie on Amazon Prime right now. Guess how much I get paid every time somebody watches my movie? Jenny, give it a shot.
I'm afraid to guess. I have no idea.
If somebody were to watch a movie on the Amazon Prime library and enjoy it, what do you think the creator gets from that as residual income?
I feel like it's probably not much. I don't know, like $10?
$10?
Oh, nice.
I wish it was $10. Every time somebody watches my movie on Prime, I get paid 2 pennies.
What?
And
Wow.
from those 2 pennies, I pay 20% to my distributor.
So you get a penny and how much?
I get about 1.7 cents every time somebody watches my movie. Now, if my movie does really well and there's a lot of viewership, I could get to 6 cents an hour or 12 cents every time somebody watches my movie. In the old days, that money used to be 50 cents an hour. Then they brought it down to 5 cents an hour. Now it's a penny. They're talking about cutting it to less than a penny per hour. Mm-hmm. My wife is an author, so we brought up books. Now, books. The interesting thing is she did some research yesterday because there's a novel that goes along with our film. And Larissa felt very rightly in a previous era that now that there's a really well-made movie out there, that there should be an easy tie-in to a novel, right? And the publisher should want to pick up that novel and publish it and get it out there. The vast majority, the average amount of money that a full-time novelist makes per year, guess what that is? Just take a guess.
Wait, me again?
Yep. Jenny, yeah, I'm putting you on the spot because I like you a lot.
500.
$500 a year?
Yeah.
Well, not quite. It's not that bad.
Okay, good.
The average full-time author in this country makes $19,000 a year, which means half of them make less than that. And the majority of people who make the most money are the long established authors that people look for their next books. But if you're an aspiring writer and a new writer, the chances of you selling even more than 1,000 books is very difficult because people aren't reading anymore. So when it comes to residual income, yeah, it's really important, like, to have a product like Peg clearly believes in her product and she really wants to make that part of her financial future, having that income coming in. That's great. The thing that we all should ask ourselves is what is our passion level to make this successful? People oftentimes, when they're in financial dire straits, there's an old saying, any port in a storm, right? So I remember my mom and dad during the credit crisis, they got heavily involved in, I believe it was Herbalife, and they bought all of this stuff to sell Herbalife. Well, you know what happened? The Herbalife is still in their closet. They never really sold much of it. So you really have to be prepared to immerse yourself in the culture and in everything that has to do with being successful. So it really becomes a personal question. What are you willing to do in order to be successful in whatever vocation you choose? That's really what it is.
And on that note, I'm going to say, try it. If for your health, you should try it. You should try Althea. And but we have 3 minutes before we're supposed to go to DJ Jill Storms. So everybody, please, starting with you, Craig, since you're here, tell us what you got going on. Give us the info. I already put your phone number in the chat, but
okay,
just tell people how they can reach you.
So if anybody wants to reach me for financial questions, you can email me at craigengel, ENGEL, at allstate.com. I'm a regional financial specialist with Allstate, and I'm doing everything I can for everybody that I talk to help them achieve financial independence. That's really, really important to me. On another note, like I said, I am a film producer and director. Cinda is a co-star in my most recent film. It's called The Misadventures of Mistress Maneater. It's streaming free on Prime. It's also now on Tubi TV, and it's on IMDb TV. So you can watch it on any of those platforms. Please watch and rate if you liked it. Tell all your friends to watch it. If you hate it, tell all your enemies to watch
it. But you won't hate it. It's hilarious.
You won't hate it. You won't hate it. I promise.
You won't hate it. It's really good. All right, Peg, give us the information that you want people to have about you. And how to
you guys, I do hope that you will look into this this product, because there's nothing like this in the world, and it saves lives. I can tell you that it does. You can get to my webpage at Abundant Wellness, one word, .team, TEAM, ASEA, ASEA.com. AbundantWellness.teamasia.com. Or if you want more information on this itself, go to AmazingMolecules.com. And that will give you a lot of different kinds of science behind it. And I hope you'll reach out for me on my regular Facebook page, just Peg Coates. My business page is currently not up and running. But find me. I'd love to chat with you, get to know you better, spend some time with you. All right? Thank you.
Do me a favor. After the show, go and put all that information into the chat. So anybody that watches this can do this. All right, Junie, what's up?
So you can find me at my website. Also, for those of you who have not seen me before, I'm a life empowerment coach and a licensed art therapist. And you can find out more about my services and programs at traumafreeuniversity.com. So that is my organization, Trauma Free University. You can catch us on all social media platforms at Trauma Free U, so just the letter U at the end of that for you university. And I will keep y'all updated next week, because I do have an online course that will be coming out, Creating Self-Synergy. But that's all I got for you right now. So you gotta stay tuned next week.
All right. So you'll go back and you'll add that information in the comments. Thank you. Y'all, Lachelle, what's up, sister?
Hey, Motivation Monday is on Monday, May 17th, 7:30 p.m. We're going to have our guest, which is Danielle Jeter. She is a well sought after PR consultant, and she's going to talk all things how you can prepare your business to get in the media. So she's going to talk all things media. As well as when you talk about residual income, I am in the process of working on Indie Black Media Network, which is supposed to be my residual income, where I'll have it's a membership site. So throughout the years, it'll be a bunch of. I'm expecting millions of members. So I believe this will be my passion for the rest of my entire life. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm putting that in the atmosphere right now. But yes, and of course, I'll be back next Wednesday. Yeah.
All right, Shelly, you know you're my homegirl. I'm gonna need you to claim that a little harder. Like this is the platform that, or this will be. I'm gonna need you to claim that.
Okay. This will be that platform where I will have residual income for the rest of my life, and I will have millions. I'm going to claim millions of subscribers, and everyone will want to know more about media. And each and every person here is a part of it. Of course, Cinda is, and DJ Kid Disco is, and whoever wants to be a part of it, because you're in media, definitely be a part of it. So thank you. I claimed it. See?
All right. Okay, I'm going to just remind everybody, if tomorrow morning, 10 to 12 Eastern, is the Melanated Morning Show. Tomorrow we have a special guest. I think the lady that was listening in, she's coming on the show, right? Is it Holmes? I'll have DJ Kid Disco tell us.
No.
Oh, sorry. Dang, that was loud.
Was that God? Is that you, God?
What's her name? The lady that's coming on tomorrow. What's her name? Kid.
You said no, so maybe she's not.
No.
Oh. What's her name?
Lisa Thornton. Thornton.
Yes, she's coming on tomorrow. She's also a financial person, so we're going to talk more money in the morning. More money in the morning.
About?
Huh?
Why was he saying no, though? What was the word no?
I thought somebody else, her name was something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I am so excited. Friday, my podcast drops, and I have a very special guest. The famous, the amazing Shelly Williams. Yay! We get to know more about Shelly. And the theme is the popular introvert. So I can't wait for you guys to listen. Yeah. Friday.
Oh, and also.
What? What's up, man?
Tomorrow night is me and Sin.
Tomorrow night is you and Sin. And so y'all want to hear some good music and some funny conversation, check out DJ Kid Disco and DJ Sin 100 on Grown Folks Radio at 8 o'clock. Right? Is that everything? All right. Now we're going to...
one more thing. I'm sorry.
What you got to say?
You know he on slow-mo.
Listen, y'all. Don't forget Sunday. Grown Folks Radio will be out in the park at Chalmers Park here in Philadelphia, broadcasting live from the International DJ Cafe's 10-year anniversary. We'll be interviewing. There'll be, a bunch of different DJs.
You sound so excited.
I know, right? Where are you going to be?
We're going to be in the park.
We are going to be, Shelly, leave me alone, in Chalmers Park. Sunday from we'll be broadcasting live from 1 to 4.
Ooh, right. That sounds fun.
It's Sunday.
Yes.
I'm gonna come meet you in person.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole bunch of it's a DJ thing, whole bunch of DJs and all that kind of stuff.
What park is that again?
Chalmers Park at 29th and Lehigh.
29th and something.
29th and Lehigh.
Okay. Monica Gladney, thank you so much for chiming in so much. There was so much talk and I didn't say thank you. And she said to tell you all thank you so much she got a lot of